Okay, so we're going round two, round three, if you will. I'm gonna scroll through some comments and respond to them as to the utmost of my ability. Um, yeah, currently I have 5 subscribers. It doesn't really mean anything to me, to be honest, because what really means to me is getting into action, getting into how do you say it? Anyway, one misunderstanding I think that came from this video that I made, which was called Why I Vote Liberal and Why You Should Also, was that I think people assumed that I was born in the US or I was referring to the American election. I tend to joke about Joe Biden and the fact that I am Sleepy Joe, but I can see why people misunderstood that and took that the wrong way, because sometimes memes can kind of go out of hand. But the title of the video wasn't indicating per se what the Democrats, the supposed liberal uh, establishment, would be the solution. I was kind of being trying to express why I think voting liberal is good long term strategy, no matter your background, no matter your ethnicity, sort of deal. But anyway, I want to scroll through some of these comments, and because some of them were really interesting, so let's do it. The first one is by Troy Gillis, 1115. This was 5 hours ago as of recording this. Should immigrants be allowed to vote conservative? Yes, but also no. Yeah, he quoted me, which is correct. That's what I said. This goes beyond the view of you look this way, therefore should vote this way. Now we're saying that maybe you shouldn't even be allowed to vote a certain way if you're in a certain demographic. Doesn't seem very liberal. Okay, so there's more to this comment, and I will go through that as well. But when I established that fact that there are immigrants who can vote Republican, or that there tend to be people like as such, I was referring to people who longing for a male figure in their life. Maybe they don't have a father, maybe they have an abusive home, and so they turn into politics and make it their whole identity in sort of the wrong way. Like, for instance, like one prime example would be 4chan. Like anyone could register on 4chan, and the 4chan leaks tend to show that there are a lot of guys who I think are suicidal or depressed or doomer pilled, and there's women too as well. You know, I'm not generalizing here, but it's usually men, and I think it's younger men and guys who are like 19, 20, you know, between that transition point where they don't really know who they are, and there's a lot they still haven't figured out yet about themselves. So when I say that, uh, he said, "You look this way, therefore you should vote this way." What I was referring to was you should be in your own best interest, but also in others' best interest. Like when you vote liberal or left leaning, then you tend to favor economic issues that will maximize the well being of others around you, like materially and even like um, in numerous ways, so to speak. I kind of have to give an example. So, for instance, let's say the housing market. The housing market here in Sweden is really bad. Almost no one can get a housing, no one can get an apartment because it's so expensive, no one can afford it either. So, you kind of have to be in the waiting room or whatever it's called for like 5 years, above 5 years, which I've been at this point up at this point, and even then you still aren't guaranteed to get an apartment home. So I took that as an example, and I'm going to get to my point there. So when I take that as an example, right, the lack of apartments, people can't get a housing, they can't move out of their home or their parents' home. So this is kind of like if you vote liberal or left leaning, then you tend to favor like helping people move out more. Like for example, at least in Sweden, when you vote, for example, the left party doesn't argue, oh, you shouldn't have your own apartment. No, they want you to have your own apartment, and they have actual decisive solutions. For example, we have the valuta or money called kroners, and they are trying to maintain that, like in Germany. Like they're trying to maintain what they have and not remove it so much as keep it and maintain it so the value doesn't drop or go up. Like, with Bitcoin, you have GameStop, which goes like this. But with valuta or money like kroners, it's not worth a lot if you transition it to dollars. So you kind of have to maintain its value, and the left party wants that. And I think the left party has the best apartment solution that isn't related to blaming immigrants or immigration for the lack of apartments or the lack of homes. Um, so that's my liberal argument there. But anyway, this comment says also, since I haven't finished it, maybe should be allowed to vote a certain way if you're in a certain demographic. Doesn't seem very liberal. Also, you can't just make a blanket statement saying that liberals have better economic stances without any supporting evidence. Okay, fair enough. Repetition of free healthcare and education also exposed that you don't really understand its policies. Okay, so of course, when I say better economic stances, for instance, let's take. I'm trying to think of like a general example that can be applied across the globe, right? Like not just in Europe, not just in America, not just in Mexico or any country at all. I was just making an example there. When I make like a mere conjecture or like a general example, I would say that education is very important, no matter your political leanings or whatever, but also that the economic stances of liberals tend to favor healthcare and stuff like that. So my evidence for that would be, for instance, if you vote Republican, let's say you're a Republican, you vote Republican, yes, then you either support certain policies or certain ideas that aren't really like at everyone's best interest, if I do say so myself. Now that's a mere conjecture, and maybe that's pushing it. So let me explain. For example, you want healthcare, but you don't want free healthcare. Okay, but the liberal wants free healthcare, or more likely to lean toward that way. And the reason that, for example, my proof or evidence that the liberals' economic stance is better is because, for instance, when it comes to a sensitive topic or controversial topic, immigration, when there's a lot of immigration or mass immigration, then there's a lot of population that needs work, needs a job that's jobless, because immigrants tend to work less than, say, Caucasian people. And I'm half Caucasian, I'm half Middle Eastern. So people can say I look Italian, but that's besides the point, completely besides the point. If you feel like you are a middle class citizen and you want to contribute to the economy, then you can always like either kind of turn to the state, or you can turn to someone that's at your best interest. And I think liberal policies tend to help you with that more than conservative ones, because conservative ones tend to say everyone can get a job, and liberals tend to say you need education. So that's kind of maybe not evidence, but kind of like a counter argument to the counter argument, if that makes any sense. I hope it does. Anyway, I have to finish this comment. You can't just make a blanket statement saying that liberals have better economic situation, okay? Your repetition of free healthcare and education also exposes that you don't really understand these policies. Okay, so there's a lot of reading I need, and I like to read theory, not because I can apply it, although you can apply it in an organization. Like if you're in the left party in Sweden and you read theory, then you can apply theory in the organization itself when you interact with other people. So that's an example, a prime example of when theory can be applied to your like physical manifestation, if you will, manifesto or manifesto. Well, you know what I mean. Hopefully, don't misquote me on that. So, for example, free education. When I when I try to understand these policies, which I have some reading to do, but what I was trying to get at was that with free education we can go so far, and I think society can move forward tremendously if we really focus on education as a primary objective or goal. Anyway, that was the end of that comment, and we're 10 minutes into the video, so we're moving on to the next comment. All right, so now the next comment. Okay, so I'll start with. Okay, let's read this comment because I was asking him. You can't just go around assuming that various groups voted in a particular way because they are uninformed. It's time that those on the left came to understand that their policies are simply not as popular as they think they are. Okay, so the reason that I think left-leaning policies are not as popular is because, in part, because they're not as easy to live with. Or when I say live with, I don't mean that like blatantly. I mean that like hypothetically or mere conjecturally wise. Like, for instance, you want the elders to get more money. Then there's higher taxes for the citizens or the middle class. So it's not easy to implement because then everyone has to pay a price for that. There's a price to be made for left-leaning policies like higher taxes or those sorts of things, right? So I completely understand what he means, but at the same time, please understand I was trying to get my point across that it's not just about being uninformed. I think, in part, when you're conservative, you kind of are conservative because you have point A to point B. Like, for example, you become a doctor, so you study 5 years to become a doctor. Then all of a sudden you're conservative. Not because you're smart, not because you're well educated, but simply because it gives you clear objective. Like, you get a clear goal, you get a clear value system, a clear structure to follow, and that's why you became conservative. Not because you're a doctor, not because you're well educated. It's because you want your structural system to go in line with it. So it's not just about you're not educated or prejudices and those things. Although maybe that is what I got across on the video, but those weren't my intentions nor my goals. But anyway, this video is long enough, so I need to move on to the next comment. Okay, that I already covered. Let's see here. Okay, so someone said there's two more comments left. So this one got one like, so I guess I'm reading it first. I'm a hardcore libertarian who voted for Trump and Republican across the board the last two presidential elections, so he's an American citizen. I heavily disagree with your assessment, but I admire that your video is respectful, not angry or emotional like I expected this video might be. Okay, so thank you. That's just a compliment, I guess. Yeah. So I intend to be well informed and also give informative information to the viewers so they can make their own decisions or call to action, if you will, on whatever beliefs they have. Okay, so this is the last comment. Never vote based on your political alignment. Always vote based on policies and actions. The Liberal candidates this year were absolutely terrible, and Harris couldn't go 30 seconds without lying about Trump or Bernie Sanders. Whoa. Okay, I didn't follow the presidential election. I'm going to be completely real here. I loved Bernie Sanders for a while, although I feel like for the last few years, after Biden won, he kind of became irrelevant to the debate. So I don't know why Harris brought him up. That's really weird. I didn't know that, to be honest. This is my first time finding that info out. I'm being completely um, ballistic or blunt here because I'm completely real with you. This is the first time I'm finding out that Bernie Sanders was brought up by Harris. But I agree. Kamala Harris, she was a bad candidate, and I believe that was in part because she was so self-deceiving, and she not just that she was a liar, she was also a bad person, and I think she was a bad leader because of it, or she suffered. Uh, she lost a lot of votes because of it. I think that's what happened. But again, I don't live in the U.S., and I am happy I don't. But anyway, um, liberal candidates were absolutely terrible. Trump. Okay, maybe she lied about Trump. I don't know. Again, when it comes to Trump, I guess I could just bring up one thing about him. I think he is a provocateur or a figure of, like, I wouldn't say he's a Chad because he's not a Chad, but he's like a provocateur. Like, he says things to provoke. or to get a reaction, or to show that he doesn't give a flying duck or fuck about anything he says. He says it because he can. That's why he says he does. So I watched a documentary about Trump before he became president, like when he got the Trump Tower built and his father was still alive and all that. And there was a woman engineer who was involved and all that. Few women. That was very interesting documentary. It was very, 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 very long. But anyway, to summarize this video in short, and to end this video very soon, he was I guess, a entrepreneur of some sort, but he was a hoax, or he was someone. He was an American who never worked a single day in his life, and I think it shows. I think it really shows that he never worked a single day in his life. Whether he's a liar, whether he's a truth teller, whatever. That's my stance on that. Anyway, that was all for this video. Hopefully this video isn't too long, but thank you guys for watching. Leave a like or a dislike, and give some feedback, and yeah, keep it going or coming. And that's all for now. Hopefully this clarifies some misunderstandings or whatever. So yeah, I'm in fact born in Sweden, and I don't have much experience with maybe some topics, but that's why I'm going to read them now as I'm ending this video. So yeah, peace.